Let me get rid of this music. Good morning and good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. This is Keith Engle for Jack Hirsch, my co-host for Jack and Keith's Weekend Playbook. You're seeing this previously recorded today, as I will be away, and I know Jack might have missed today as well. But you're going to see a couple shows recorded, and this will be probably the first one of those that you will see. Again, I welcome in my co-host. I'm going back to my old introduction, Boxing Hall of Fame writer and all-around sports aficionado, Jack Hirsch. Hello, Jack.
You know, Keith, I mean, I think we should confess we're taping the day after the national championship game in college, Miami and Ohio State. So, but if we talk about the game, it's going to maybe be old news by the time someone views this tape. But the two of us are a little psyched and went a little bit of a high after that game.
They'll know because we will have talked about it on a live show by the time they've seen this anyway.
Exactly. Anyway,
you'll see this sometime after January 30th or 30th or after is when you'll see this. So today our topic is going to be, I don't know why he doesn't want to stay up here, the best players, more or less the best players who had never won a World Series in Major League Baseball history. We're going to go position by position. We'll talk about some of the greats that did win, and some of the guys who didn't. Some got a chance to win. They may have got to a World Series. Some never did, but they did not ultimately get a ring. And there's as I went through this list, Jack, there are a lot of great players that never won a World Series. When I was growing up, Ernie Banks was in that game. The name everybody heard. But there's
they loved Ernie Banks' personality. I mean, he had that famous line, "Let's play two." Yeah. He was called Mr. Cub. He was Mr. Sunshine. And, and Ernie Banks was a bright light for a bad team. No Chicago Cub teams are basically very bad. They had a bit of a surge in 1969 when it looked like they might actually, get to the World Series, at least get to the playoffs and win the National League East. And at that time, you just had to win one playoff round. 1969 was the first season of divisional play. Through 1968, whoever had the best record in the American League and the best record in the National League would face off with one another. But in 1969, they split it into two divisions. As it turned out, the Miracle Mets overtook the Cubs and then beat the Atlanta Braves to go to the World Series, where they beat the Baltimore Orioles.
Famous Black Cat game turned that whole season around, if you remember. You probably remember that very well. I was only 9 years old, so, I was a young man yet. You were already probably prosperous.
Yeah, I was aware. Yeah. I mean, I was, whatever.
You were already eyeing retirement in 1969.
Yeah, I was already looking. Yeah, exactly. Social Security I was studying up on. And
in any event, we're going to go position by position. We're going to talk about some of these great players that both won World Series and did not win. My focus is going to be on the ones that did not win. I came up with some great names here. And we'll start at that first base.
I'll just say something.
Go ahead, Jack.
Let me say something. I think the purpose of this show, we hope the viewers have fun with it. We want to field the best team of all players of all time who were never World Series winners. And then maybe we'll compare them to the, elite players who won World Series. And World Series are hard to win. I mean, you know what's odd about it, Keith? We hear in basketball, in football, oh, rings, how many championships do they have? For example, and Aaron Rodgers can never be considered the greatest quarterback of all time because he's only won one world championship, one Super Bowl. Okay, so he can never surpass Tom Brady, who has 7. But let me give you a comparison. Mickey Mantle has 7 World Series wins. Willie Mays has one. But most people are going to now rank Willie Mays ahead of Mickey Mantle, because Willie Mays was able to play longer, pad the stats more. And I'm not saying Willie Mays wasn't better than Mickey Mantle. That's a matter of opinion. Let other people debate that, or we could debate it another time. But it's somehow in baseball, they don't care as much about rings, but it's a personal thing to a player.
Yeah.
If they've never been on a World Series winner.
Well, one of the best. I'm going to start at first base because one of my favorite players of all time never won a World Series, and the Yankees won one a year after he retired. And of course, talking about Don Mattingly at first base. So we'll start with first baseman. But I put Mattingly on my list, but I don't know that he's the best because we've got Banks who can play 2 positions. We got Killebrew who can play about 3 positions. But then you got more recent guys like Bagwell and Frank Thomas and Joey Votto. There's a couple, Helton, George Sisler, if you want to go back in time, McCovey. There's a lot of great players that did not win a ring here. I kind of lean myself to Hartman Killebrew here, but I don't know what your thoughts are. What are your thoughts on first base?
My thoughts are what you like. Do you like peak value? Or do you like career achievement? If it's career achievement, it can't be Don Mattingly. Frank Thomas played longer, had a better career. Hartman Killebrew had a better career and that he lasted longer. But let me ask you this. Of all the guys that you mentioned defensively, who was the best defensively of all of them you mentioned? I think Donnie Baseball clearly.
Easily, Mattingly. Easily.
And at peak value for those 6 years or so, were any of those guys better? I know Hartman Killebrew would hit more homers, Willie McCovey a little more power, etc., etc. There was no one better than Don Mattingly. Were any of those other first basemen outside of Mattingly ever considered to be the best player in baseball at one point? None of them.
None of them.
But Mattingly at one point was considered to be the best player in baseball. So it's Don Mattingly for me, but I have Yankee bias. I mean, if I lived in Minnesota, I might say Killebrew. If I lived in Chicago, I might say Frank Thomas. San Francisco, I might say Willie McCovey.
That's fair because I think there would be a lot of regional bias in any of these positions that we look at. I would say I agree with you. If we're going to take peak value and who is best in their prime, Don Mattingly wins this going away. If I'm going to take career numbers, then I'm going to pick Hartman Killebrew. I don't think I lose either way. But
well, if I'm putting a team on the field who's never won a World Series in their prime against the greatest players in history who have won World Series, I want Don Mattingly there. I want him. His defense would be impeccable, and his bat would be as good as anyone's on both teams.
That's fair. By the way, there's another guy that I'm going to mention when we come up to the next position that would also apply here as well. But I think we agree here. And again, if we compare him to all-time greats, you mentioned Lou Gehrig before he went on the air. Probably Lou Gehrig is my first baseman if I'm going to talk about Don Mattingly.
Yeah, well, but I don't know. Should we consider this, Keith? Whether you want to consider this modern play as opposed to an old timer. The things that Ruth and Gehrig did, if they were playing in this modern era where pitchers could throw close to 100 miles per hour, some of them, or at least most of them throw around the mid 90s, to upper 90s. we don't know how Garrick and Ruth would have done. They may have been very ordinary,
They
ordinary.
would also have improved equipment. They'd be hitting,
They would have, correct,
baseball, not dead balls.
But we don't know whether they would have been as good.
We don't know.
That's the point about
we never will.
I mean, yeah, exactly. I think they would have adjusted with the times, you know, but they wouldn't have shown the level of dominance that they did in this era. They wouldn't have been head and shoulders above the modern players. You're not going to tell me for 1 second, oh, Babe Ruth, he would have been better than Ichiro. Babe Ruth would have hit more home runs than Aaron Judge, more of a home run threat.
Yeah,
maybe similar, but you're not going to convince me that he would.
I'll tell you what, the lineup we're going to put together will compete with these all-time great lineups anyway. In my mind, it's going to be a great lineup. If we move to second base, I think a lot of great candidates: Sandberg, Nellie Fox, if you want to go back a ways, and Napla Joy go back a ways, Craig Biggio, and the guy I like also qualified at first base, Rod Carew. Not a great defensive second baseman, but one of the best pure hitters we've seen in my lifetime for sure.
Well, did you consider Jeff Kent?
Jeff Kent's another good one, actually. I did not even put Kent on.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you something. If you and I are putting together a team that had to beat the all-time great World Series winners, I'm starting to get a little bit concerned. I love Rod Carew, and I'd love his bat in that lineup. His bat would be as good as anyone in baseball history as far as if you need a base hit, even though he once did end the postseason series by making an out. But Rod Carew at best, and he was probably below this, was just an average second baseman. Same with Jeff Kent. They were not good defensively, in all.
And not enough power at first base for sure either.
I mean, Kent would supply power, but you have enough big bats in the lineup. And Carew at second base.
I need a table setter. He's going to get on base 40+% of the time.
I know. That's why, and I'm looking at the alternatives. You could have someone like Nellie Fox, really good defensively.
Really good.
But he doesn't have much of a stick, compared, to the guys we're going to be naming. I'd go with Rod Carew. I mean, just his bat alone is going to, you'll come out ahead with his bat alone.
Yeah, I teetered actually between Carew and Ryan Sandberg, the late great who just passed away here this last
Ryan Sandberg will give you good defense, but Rod Carew's bat, in that lineup is he'll handle all type of pitches, and
I get that.
You have Ryan Sandberg in that lineup. Let's say you put him down, he'd be hitting last probably.
Most likely.
Next to last. Rod Carew would be a top of the lineup hitter.
He's going to lead off for me.
He'd lead off at second or whatever.
Yeah. So, when Carew's our guy, I think the consensus.
Yeah. So far, we agreed Mattingly and Carew.
Third base. I didn't come up with a lot of candidates here at third base. I got Beltre. I've got Ron Santo. I've got Joe Torre, who also qualifies at catcher.
You're allowed to name guys who are playing today if you want.
You can. I didn't do that. You can feel free to throw a few names in if you like. I didn't do it. So if you want, I got Machado in there as well. I jotted it down. But did you have another name from now or from?
Well, it was Machado. I was thinking of Machado. You can't go wrong with Machado. Beltre was great, but didn't Beltre win the World Series?
He did not. He lost the World Series with the Rangers.
Oh, no, they lost it. Right. Yeah. It was in the World Series. Yeah, they won it much late on after he left.
I think all-around is a better all-around player than Manny Machado, I think. Especially once he got his stick going later in his career, he was just a monster. And his glove was beyond reproach.
Yeah, Machado's very good defensively himself. Okay,
and Santo doesn't even come close to these guys. I don't think Santo's a great player, but I don't think he compares to either one of these guys. Do you?
No. Santo is very good. I don't want to say he doesn't compare at all. but he is a little level below. You like Beltray? I kind of like Machado, but I'm sure if we took a careful look at the numbers would favor Beltray. But this is a question to me of the naked eye test. And I've seen Machado all these years with the Orioles, then going to the Padres. He's just, and Machado's the first ballot Hall of Famer, very easily.
I agree. He's going to compile a bunch more numbers yet, too. He's only 30 years old, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So he's going to play a lot longer, and he may surpass Beltray for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those arguments, Keith. If we had to form a team and push came to shove, I could defer to someone else, to you, and say, okay, we'll take Beltray over Machado if I had to. I'm not sure whether you would defer to me and say, okay, let's go with Manny Machado.
I could flip a coin. I wouldn't. That wouldn't be like a deal breaker for me. Like we'd have to part ways if we could.
You wouldn't storm out of the room and threaten to quit. Yeah, I get like that scout did when the Houston Astros wouldn't draft Derek Jeter. He just resigned. What Ernie Accorsi did when he said he was going to hand in his resignation with the Colts when they, if they weren't going to draft John Elway, he doesn't want his name attached to that, So,
but he's not playing for you. So, all right. So we got a split decision here.
Machado, Beltray. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go with Beltray if we have to have a settlement here.
All right.
I can feel comfortable going with Beltray.
We may have to trade some guys off here at some point because I got a feeling we may have a dispute on the next one. I don't know as well. Shortstop. We've got names like Cal Ripken Jr. We've got Robin Yount.
Cal Ripken Jr. Wait.
Oh, wait, I'm wrong.
1983. He won World Series.
Yeah, my bad. He's off the list. Thank you.
1983, yeah, when the Orioles beat the Phillies in 5 games.
Yeah, I was thinking about the rest of his long storied career where he didn't win anything. So it's a shorter list now. Again, we can include guys today, but Robin Yount, we may not have any problem. I've got 3 guys, and 2 of them are old timers: Archie Vaughn, Luke Appling, and Robin Yount. That's all I've got. And Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks we could consider here as well.
I won't put Banks on because can you trust his defense at shortstop? No. Defense is tremendously important. Tremendously. Who are the other names you have? Luke Appling.
Yeah, Luke Appling.
Name, don't know enough. I can't trust him in the modern era, how he's going to play short.
Or Archie Vaughn, same kind of thing there. And Robin Yount is my guy. Robin Yount is my selection here. I like Robin Yount a lot.
Robin Yount is your guy, but, I have a name out there that, I could pit against Yount, and this is an intriguing debate. What about Francisco Lindor?
Interesting comparison.
Excellent defensively.
Better defensively.
Very good on the bases.
Yeah.
Speedy. Has a lot of pop in his bat, a lot of power. I'm going to go with Francisco Lindor. Is going to be my guy, marginally over Robin Yount. Very slight lean. I think I trust him more on the base paths and his power and his glove. His glove and Yount's were pretty close, you could argue, but I'll give Lindor an edge defensively.
I think Yount was probably a little overrated defensively, quite frankly. So I would think
of it, Lindor was better defensively.
Yeah, he got moved to center field, remember, later in his career too. So I can defer to Lindor here. With Yount backing him up, I think we can go safely there.
Yeah, if you have Lindor play against the greatest players of all time, he'll be fine on the field for you. You could plug him in at shortstop and have no concerns. A guy like Ernie Banks, you worry about him a little defensively. Can you imagine we had the double play combination of Carew and Banks? Come on, Keith.
Jeez, that'd be unbelievable.
That's up the middle. You're not strong defensively. You're really not at that point.
That would be, especially as they got older. I don't know why my banner doesn't want to stay up here.
Yeah.
And by the way, any of you guys watching this can put your own selections in too. We'll review the comments later. So that's fair. Listen, you want defense up the middle. We're going to need somebody to replace Carew in the late innings as it is. So,
well, Yeah. You make an excellent point. And you made a good point before on this as well. Certain of these guys got moved to another position at some point in their career. And it wasn't necessarily because they were too old and couldn't handle that position anymore. It's because, they just weren't that good defensively there. And the team came to that realization.
Just saw the problem here. So I think we'll settle on Lindor here. Very good. All right.
Yeah.
A pretty good infield right now of Don Mattingly, Rod Carew, Francisco Lindor, and Adrian Beltre.
Yeah.
So I think we're in pretty good shape here. Why am I showing?
The hardest part of this lineup when we're done would be where they're going to bat. A guy like Lindor is going to be hitting maybe last even, 8th and 9th or 10th or whatever. You have the DH. Yeah, well, 9. Not
we're going to hit our catch. We're going to hit our pitch.
Talking about. I'm adding in an extra spot in the order.
Yeah, don't.
But no, he has to, because you obviously, I can't imagine Rod Carew not being the leadoff hitter.
I can't either.
He's the ultimate table setter, if you need him. And Carew had decent speed. He wasn't, a base steal in the traditional sense like Ricky Henderson, but he'd be a great table setter for anyone.
That's fair. I like where we are so far. Let's move to left field. We're going to do outfield by position, or you want to do just 3 outfielders?
I think let's do it by position, because certain outfielders, I don't want to move them to a position they never played.
Okay. Some of them can play multiple positions, but that's fine too.
They can, but certain players who play right field and center field, we've never seen them in left field. I don't want to assume they'll be good left fielders just because they won't be a disaster out there and they'll hold their own. They won't be as effective. We
just made left field very, very difficult because the candidates are Barry Bonds, Ted Williams, Yaz, Billy Williams finishes 4th there. I don't know how I leave Teddy Ballgame out of here, this conversation, but Barry Bonds has got to be the greatest player, not only not win a World Series, but have no chance of being in the Hall of Fame.
The problem with Barry Bonds, this is the problem in making him the all-time left fielder. Before the steroids, allegations or what he put on himself that he had no knowledge of, or however you want to describe it, he was a great left fielder, not a good left fielder. He was outstanding, in left field. But afterwards, late in his career, when he was hitting all the homers, he was no more than so-so in the outfield.
Right.
He was older. I don't want to say it was a liability, but he wasn't an asset at that point. So what exactly do you do with him? Forget Ted Williams. He wasn't good in the outfield. He wasn't. Forget about him. You can't make him your left fielder. Yaz was a great left fielder, outstanding defensively. But the point is, with Yaz, you just, he wasn't the impact player the others were. How do you elevate him ahead of Bonds?
Agree.
Bonds would be my guy. Yeah.
Except 1 or 2 seasons, Yaz is one of the great compilers of all time. He compiled a lot of numbers over a lot of years. Great player. I'm not taking anything away from him. But he didn't, year in and year out, he was not as good as Ted Williams or Barry Bonds for sure. I've got to go with Ted Williams here, because the argument for Bonds is always, before steroids, he was a Hall of Famer already. But before steroids, was he as good an all-round player as Ted Williams? He's a great left fielder, better left fielder. Was he as good a hitter, even close to as good a hitter as Ted Williams? Before,
but he would have been a Hall of Fame anyway.
I'm not saying he wouldn't have been. I'm saying forget about 10 years. Was he as good as Ted Williams before?
Ted Williams would have been liability in left field. That's what the problem is. He was a liability out there. But during the time Ted Williams played, people didn't care about defense. I remember playing. I remember playing a game once. Okay, I played competitive baseball as a kid. I was like in one of these leagues. A serious league where scouts came around, and not to look at me, of course. And I was like 16. And I remember I had one game. I was on the bench most of the time by that time, and I got a shot in one of the games, and I'm up 3 times, and I strike out, walk, and hit a ground ball from out, but it got the guy in from third. It was looked at like I totally washed out that game. Totally washed out. 0 for 2, back to the bench. And I was looking at it, but I was successful 2 of the 3 times I was up with a walk, and I got the guy in from third, even though it was a weak ground ball. But during the point I'm trying to make is this: during the time Ted Williams played, we looked at cold statistics. Oh, look at his batting average. Oh, his batting average is up there. People didn't even care how often someone walked. They didn't even care about that. I was astonished to learn, Keith, recently, not long ago, Mickey Mantle, when he was all washed up and broken down at the end of his career, the man was walking more than 100 times a season. He may have led the league in walks, and it was thought that Mickey was horrendous.
Yeah. Well, he couldn't barely.
Now we would look at it, Mantle's getting on. He's productive still.
So before I concede this, and I'm not going to, this isn't a backbreaker for me either. Am I going to be allowed to consider Ted Williams as my DH? Because it is.
Yeah, we didn't get to DH. We didn't get to DH yet.
I had in my mind.
And we have a pinch hitter.
Okay, and I had in my mind only guys who played DH for my DH. So if I can use Ted Williams there, then we'll talk about that there.
Yeah, you could put him over, whoever. You have a free run. Bonds in left field.
Bonds in left field. All right. Center field also gets tough.
It's tough between these two names.
Ty Cobb never won a World Series. Ken Griffey Jr. Never won a World Series. Andre Dawson played some center, some right. I don't know where you want to consider him, but I don't think he's going to make this list anyway. To me, this comes down to modern versus old time again, and we got Ken Griffey Jr. against Ty Cobb, and it's probably not even a contest.
Listen, what have we ever heard about Ty Cobb defensively?
Not much.
We heard he was a great hitter. He would spray the ball all over. An old timer like Joe DiMaggio is different. We heard how brilliant he was defensively.
Yeah.
Everyone who saw him play. I got to go with a modern great player because they're a safer bet than Ty Cobb. Maybe Ty Cobb would be great playing in a more modern era. Okay, maybe he would absolutely be great. Maybe he'd make all the adjustments. I'm not saying he wouldn't, but I can't say with absolute confidence he would. And why not take a sure thing? So who are you saying center field? You're saying Ken Griffey Jr.
Ken Griffey Jr.
I have a hard choice because it's between him and Mike Trout. Mike Trout, outstanding defensively, outstanding as well.
Can't count on him to stay healthy, and Griffey stayed healthy his entire career, basically.
What did you say?
I can't count on Mike Trout to be available for me to play. So Griffey was really hurt.
You're taking that well.
So again, at their peak. So you want to use at their peak. There's very little they're almost dead even.
We're going over career. No. If we're talking about drafting them, we have a choice. Both of them are 22 years old, and we could have them both at 22 years old, and we have a choice, Griffey or Trout. You can then make the argument, well, I think Griffey's going to stay healthier. We could get more out of him. I get that, okay? But you can't have it both ways. You can't take Don Mattingly because of peak value, yet not take Trout. But with that said,
I'm not saying
it could
he's
go either way. I'm fine. I think Griffey was a little more spectacular out there during his prime, and I would give Ken Griffey, despite an extremely slim margin, an edge over Mike Trout. So I would take Ken Griffey. And if you need any evidence of that, think of what a great player A-Rod was, okay? When he was with Seattle, he was great after too, of course.
Yeah.
But A-Rod was great with Seattle. But guess what? When he was with Seattle, even A-Rod said, and correctly so, there was no dispute who was the better player, him or Ken Griffey. We all knew Ken Griffey was a better player than A-Rod. I mean, it wasn't one of those things that you're going to sit down and argue unless you're going to say, well, a shortstop is more valuable than a center fielder. That was about the only argument you can make for A-Rod. And A-Rod is an all-time great, yet Griffey was rated, as a better player.
I think at peak value, they're very even, and Trout might get a little bit of an edge because he's a better base stealer, or was a better base stealer in his prime than Griffey.
They were so close. You want to know something? It was like a draft, and they 1 and 2, and you took Griffey first, and I had Trout next. I wouldn't lose any sleep over.
No, I wouldn't either.
Or Keith, if I was the owner and you made the selection, and I thought, wow, we're going to get Ken Griffey first, and not known to me, you pick Mike Trout, you wouldn't get fired.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I feel you'd say you change your mind at the last moment. Trout is great, blah blah blah. And I'd say, okay, that's who we go with.
I'm still sticking with Griffey here.
Yeah, same with me.
It's a pretty good defensive outfielder we got so far.
Right field.
Moving to right field, we've got Vlad Guerrero, Larry Walker, Tony Gwynn. Backaway's Ralph Kiner. Just to throw an old timer in there. Ichiro. This is a rough one. Not easy. I like Ichiro.
This is the easiest one to pick of all of them.
Ichiro?
No. This is Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge.
I'm not thinking.
It's not even close. Ichiro was great. I loved Ichiro. He had a phenomenal arm. You're excellent defensively, outstanding bat, great player. I loved Ichiro. But Aaron Judge, none of these guys are quite on his level. He's, John Carlos Stanton said it best at one point in the season. He says, all of us are playing baseball. Aaron Judge is playing video games.
Well, that's fair.
That's how ridiculous it was going on. Now, listen, this isn't demeaning the other guys. Tony Gwynn, wow, what a player. But I'm going to tell you honestly, if we had a choice to have all of them on our team, and that this is not Yankee bias, Don Mattingly may have been Yankee bias to an extent, as much as we love Mattingly. This is not Yankee bias. If we're sitting down and we have to have one of these guys at our team at their best, and you pick Tony Gwynn over Aaron Judge, as great as Tony Gwynn is, my blood is boiling if I'm the owner and I see him make that selection. Same with Ichiro. I'll say, how can you do that? I know how great Ichiro is, but come on.
Ichiro could do it. Ichiro would have hit 30 home runs a year if they asked him to do that. You realize that?
I mean, like picking Ichiro would be like picking Tom Glavine over Sandy Koufax at peak value. You just don't do that. And Glavine was great, Hall of Famer, but you don't do that at peak value. But if you're going to tell me that Aaron Judge, the other guys are going to stay healthier than Aaron Judge, that's the only argument you could try to make. But Aaron Judge has proven now he's not injury prone.
I don't think I think that's past for sure.
I mean,
and again, and my original thought process didn't include today's guys, so that I knew
that slipped by you. You weren't thinking of the current guys as much.
I'll give you a Judge. I got to include another guy for DH now. Anyway, So we're going to put Judge in the outfield. So now we've got a first base. Here's our line. Oh, we got to go to catcher first. Then I'll recap the lineup. So let's move to catcher. I've got names like Joe Mauer, Mike Piazza, Joe Torre, Carlton Fisk. People forget about Carlton Fisk and how great he was.
He never won a World Series, did he?
Never won a World Series, just like Yaz. Never won a World Series. To me, I don't have any, I'm trying to think of some guys that are playing actively, and I don't come up with anybody that, the guy in Seattle hasn't played enough to me to say that's.
Rally. I wouldn't put him down anyway. Not one monster season doesn't do it. It comes down between two guys, okay? And you could probably sway me either way. It comes down between Mike Piazza and Carlton Fisk to me. Okay, I know Joe Torre was outstanding at one season. He hit 363. I get all that.
He was a third baseman when he did that, by the way.
Right. I'm going to go with a slight lean to Mike Piazza, but if you're firm on Carlton Fisk, I would actually give in to that. And this is my rationale. If I told you that Mike Piazza was the best hitting catch in baseball history, I mean, how much can you argue against that?
I need defense behind the plate, though. And
exactly. That's what bothers me.
I got enough power throughout this lineup. I don't need Piazza. So my choice came down to Mauer and Fisk, quite frankly, and defense carried the day. Carlton Fisk.
I take Fisk over Mauer if it came down to that. I get you handling, pitching, the whole staff, but having Piazza's bat in there, you could hit Piazza just about anywhere in the order. You don't have to hit him at the lower part of the order. The guy's a great hitter. The guy's a force. Okay,
this is going
to, you have a guy like
you're freezing up a little there, Jack.
Had Johnny Bench never won a World Series, and we put him on that team that we're talking about now, he would hit all the way at the bottom of the order. Let's be honest about it.
Yep.
He hit either 8th or 9th, but Piazza's too good a hitter. Piazza, could be hitting in the 4th or 5th spot on this great team.
And Fisk is going to hit a little bit too. So I think
I'll go along with
head and shoulders above Piazza defensively. And Jack's buffering a little bit, so hopefully we get Jack back in a second.
You hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, okay. I'm going with I'll go with Fisk along with you because defense is important, handling pitches. I don't like Piazza behind the plate.
So we've got Mattingly at first base, Carew at second base, Beltre at third base, Lindor at shortstop, Bonds in left field, Griffey in center field, Judge in right field, Fisk behind the plate.
And your DH.
We need a DH. The best pure DH who did DH, and if we're not going to put other guys in there, is Edgar Martinez, in my mind.
He was a pure DH, but I'm not elevating him ahead of Ted Williams.
I got Ted Williams, and I got Killebrew, and I got all these other guys I can pull in here to DH.
It comes down between Ted Williams and Mike Trout, and I'll go with Ted Williams. Ted Williams is one of these guys who played all those years ago. 85 years ago was his biggest year. The 1941, he hit 406. I believe Ted Williams might, if he was playing today, might be the best hitter in baseball today. I think he could just step out if he was a young man again, screw the modern equipment. He would need about through now and make the adjustments and make it in short order. And the question maybe if a few days later he'd say, okay, I had a rough game or two, and then he would figure things out and then just be outstanding.
Fair. How many did you want to pick guys off the bench, just pinch hitter, or?
Well, I was thinking in terms, if we had to have a pinch hitter, okay, let's create one more spot. I wanted a pinch hitter, and I think two names come to mind. We've been talking about Mike Trout and Ty Cobb. I mean, can you trust the stick in Cobb's hand against 97 miles per hour?
Maybe. You remember Pete Rose when Pete Rose?
Maybe.
You remember when Pete Rose was chasing the hit record? They asked him. They said, if Ty Cobb played today, what would he hit? And Rose said he'd hit about 300. He goes, what are you talking about? The guy averaged like 390 for his career. He says, but you got to remember he'd be 90 years old. So I think Ty Cobb would handle today's position okay.
Well, yeah, I'm going to go with Mike Trout. I don't know how good a pinch hitter he would be, because pinch hitting is an art. It's an art. I mean, how often has Mike Trout pinch hit throughout his career? I mean, but that's hard for anyone to pinch hit. But I would create that position for Trout. He seems like a good person. I could see him in the clubhouse limbering up, getting ready for situations. Cobb would be grumpy that he had to DH. He'd be cursing everyone out, you know.
I would
go with Mike Trout.
We put Cobb on our team as our pinch runner.
Wow, I don't know if there's any such thing we could have as a pinch runner.
Oh, Charlie Finley had a designated runner when he, you know.
Yeah, what was his name? Washington. He got picked off. He got picked off first base by Mike Marshall in the '74 World Series. Yeah. You know, it's funny, weird about pinch running, how skittish people are. Can you imagine someone like Dave Roberts? He had, he had one of his star players, one of his star pitchers, okay? Maybe that's not a good example. Any manager who had his ace pitcher pinch running and the pitcher got hurt, they'd be calling for the manager to be fired. Gil Hodges used to use Tom Seaver as a pinch runner, and Seaver wasn't even that quick, but Seaver was very smart. But he'd use him as a pinch runner, and you'd see Seaver doing deep knee bends at first base. And it was considered normal during that time, you know, late 60s, beginning 1970s. Now it would be insanity.
Absolutely.
But it's having Ohtani pinch run, and Ohtani would get hurt. How could you have him pinch run? That's crazy. The pitchers, I want to go over that.
How many
starting pitcher?
How many? One starting pitcher?
One who had to take the mound.
We've got some candidates here. Ferguson Jenkins, Juan Marshall, Gaylord Perry, Garrett Cole. You want to include guys today? Robin Roberts, Roy Halladay. A lot of guys. Mike Bucina. I'm picking Ferguson Jenkins.
Ferguson was a great pitcher. I'm not sure he was that dominant. I mean, you talked about compiling before. He was just extremely consistent.
He won 20 games.
When you talk about domination, yeah, but that could be consistently very good. I mean, the Baltimore Orioles staff who had 4 20-game winners, how many of them were really dominant pitchers? Jim Palmer, you could call a great pitcher on that staff. The rest of them, Cuellar was outstanding, but I wouldn't call him necessarily a great pitcher. I wouldn't compare him to Pedro Martinez, not quite on that level. Pat Dobson, Dave McNally, 20-game winners, but come on. The two that stand out, Juan Marichal, because Juan Marichal was compared to Sandy Koufax, and the debate would be who is better, Koufax or Marichal. And Koufax, to a lot of people at peak value, is still considered the greatest pitcher of all time, era for era at peak value. Okay, the idea that Marichal was compared to him, and Bob Gibson was never compared to Koufax. During the same era, everyone was basically saying Koufax was better than Gibson. It wasn't much of a debate, and we know how great Bob Gibson was. But the guy I'm gonna go with a mound guy. Why not Tarek Skubal taking the mound for me?
I
The
like that.
Tiger Ace.
Again, not having considered
Two-time Cy Young Award winner.
players.
I mean, he's
a
as
good pick.
good as any guy for now.
I'll give you
We're
Skubal.
talking about career achievement. Skubal's got to pitch a bit longer, of course.
I'll give you Skubal.
But I feel great Skubal taking the mound because he could very well dominate.
That's fair. We'll give you Tree Scout.
Fergie Jenkins, I couldn't see dominating the great lineup he would be against. I just don't see him dominating them. Skubal, I could see maybe going in there and dominating the greatest hitters of all time.
I'm going to give you Skubal, but I think you're giving Jenkins a bad shake here, really. Just saying. I think Jenkins is better.
Yeah, well, no, Ferguson was a great pitcher. He was a great pitcher. I'm not, and he didn't play. When you think of some of his teams, you might say played for bad teams. But wait, he had Ernie Banks. He had Ron Stanto. He had Leo DeRoche as a manager. There was some talent around there.
They weren't winning anything, though.
Well, they didn't, but, what could I say? Middle reliever.
By the way, just to touch on the starting pitchers one time, too. It's hard for me to believe we didn't give Gaylord Perry more of an opportunity here because Gaylord Perry was dominant in the 70s. Dominant.
He wasn't. He wasn't.
When he was with Cleveland and Texas, and the Padres. Go look at some of the years he had.
He wasn't dominant. When you talk about dominant, you talk about Bob Gibson and guys like that. You could talk about Marichal. You could say he was dominant. Pedro Martinez was dominant.
Hold on.
Guys were dominant. Ferguson Jenkins was a great pitcher, but I wouldn't call him a dominant pitcher. You mentioned Mike Mussina before. Mike Mussina was not a dominant pitcher. He's gotten to the Hall of Fame. Andy Pettitte wasn't a dominant pitcher. Roger Clemens was a dominant pitcher. There's certain differences.
Gaylord Perry in 1972 at a horrible Cleveland team wins 24 games, pitched to a 1.92 ERA. With a bad Cleveland team in 74, he was 21 wins, 2.51. With the Padres in 78, not a good team, 21 wins, 2.73 ERA. I can tell you through the 70s, he was.
And 2.73 is excellent, but it's not totally, it doesn't blow you away. It's excellent. And during that era. I could compare.
Yeah, he struck out 290, 292, 255, 253, 315, 250, 270.
How many innings did he pitch?
Consecutive years. How many innings?
He had an outstanding career. Kudos to Gaylord Perry.
Over 300 innings. 8 years in a row, over 300 innings. This guy was a great pitcher. I'm not saying he would take.
No one's saying he wasn't. No one's saying he wasn't a great pitcher, but
dominant pitcher.
He wasn't on the level of Bob Gibson.
He wasn't
on the level of Pedro Martinez.
He was as good as Gibson during the streak I just talked about. He was as good as
Gibson had
talked about.
In 1968, Gibson had a 1.12 ERA. He blew anything Gaylord Perry did away. What Gibson did in that year.
Everybody had great ERAs that year, too. Everybody.
Gaylord Perry would have been, if Gaylord Perry was pitching for the Yankees today, and everyone was healthy on that team and raring to go, he would have probably been the number 2 starter behind Garrett Cole.
Yeah.
But listen, but, if Bob Gibson was set in the prime of his career on the Yankees today and everyone's ready to go, he would have been the ace of the staff. Garrett Cole would have been the number 2 starter. That's the point I'm trying to make.
That's fair. I think Perry gets discounted because he hung around way too long trying to get those 300 wins. I think that's his biggest problem. You still there, Jack?
Totally dominant pitcher. Yeah.
He won
middle relief. If you want to use
foresight,
you could use Gaylord Perry for. If you want to use him,
No, I'm fine. I only wanted to give him his due here on this conversation. That's all I wanted to do. Give him his due. I'll give you Skubal.
Middle relief and then closer. A middle reliever is sticky because we can't name a traditional middle reliever.
I got one guy.
So we have to.
I got one name.
To think: has there been any great pitchers who pitched at least one game we remember of consequence in middle relief, and we'll use them. And we remember Mike Mussina, Game 7 of the 2003 World Series. Middle relief. I also remember, and I was actually at that game in 1969. I played hooky from school. Nolan Ryan, middle relief, game 3 of the World Series against the Baltimore Orioles.
I think we could consider Mike Marshall as well, because he pitched all parts of the game. He didn't pitch like just the last inning like closers today. I think you could consider Mike Marshall too. And a guy I had who pitched in middle relief, Jack, was Lindy McDaniel, by the way. A guy who actually pitched in that role.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. But yeah. I can't fault you because you're being specific of guys who actually did it.
But if we want a pitcher, I mean, we did it with DH.
Picking guys.
We did it with DH.
We did it a little bit. If we need 3 innings during a game to, the starting pitcher is shaky, we need a guy to come and give us 2-3 innings. You want one of your, starters. Listen, technically speaking, we could say Ferguson, Jenkins, and Gaylord Perry. Just make them a middle reliever. They'll get used to their role on a team like that. And the team we're picking is so great, those guys wouldn't have minded being in the middle relief role because they would have understood the situation. So, yeah, hypothetically, you could name any starter. I can name Juan Marichal, put him in that role if I want to.
Well, let's name one. Let's just name one.
Yeah, I'd say Mike Mussina. I'm going to go with Mike Mussina. Something tells me he could have adjusted to that role really, really well.
Well, we saw him doing a big spot against the Red Sox. So
exactly. And he knew he was going to get called in that spot.
That's fair. Closer. I have one candidate for you, and that's it. Trevor Hoffman. I don't have anybody else. No argument.
Normally, I would agree with you. The name jumps out at you. He played in the World Series, but it was 1998 when the Padres lost to the Yankees, but never won a World Series. I'll give you another name. I don't like Hoffman for the simple reason he pitched very poorly in big spots for whatever reason. He was more than a compiler. All those saves were because he was a great pitcher, and he had to be in certain pressure situations. But something about big games, he just didn't pitch well. And that was the knock on him. I can't trust Trevor Hoffman to go against another lineup, the greatest players of all time, and be confident he'll close. We have no great closers there. The closest I'll come is Lee Smith. I'll go with Lee Smith.
Didn't pitch in big spots, by the way.
Excuse me. I'll trust Lee Smith a little more than Trevor Hoffman in a big spot against an elite lineup. Can we put Juan Marichal in the bullpen?
Listen.
We'll let Gaylord Perry come out of but we can't quite do that unless we were going to take another starter. Then I'd say, okay, Gaylord Perry come in? Can you throw the knuckleball? I don't know.
We cheated enough here. I could throw that spitter out there in the 9th inning and just blow guys away. Well, let's make Perry our closer. This isn't a traditional. We'll make Gaylord Perry our closer. Mike Marshall.
If I had to do that, I'd go with Juan Marichal because he could overpower you, dominating stuff.
Let's pick one guy. I'll throw another guy. Mike Marshall's another guy who's a true closer, true relief pitcher, who was great for quite a few years in the 70s.
Mike Marshall. I could see Mike Marshall because he was a pure closer. But, Trevor Hoffman had a better career. Lee Smith had a better career. But we're talking about big situations as well. So if it's a big spot, whatever. You mentioned before about what's his name, Washington, Ron Washington. Was it Ron? No, not Ron Washington.
Herb Washington. Herb.
And right, the pinch runner who got thrown out by Mike Marshall. Mike Marshall actually was a teacher of his in college.
Yeah.
He had like a course kinesiology, with that's kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Dick Young wasn't thrilled with Mike Marshall, his attitude.
Mike Marshall,
be hard.
A lot of his teammates didn't like Mike Marshall either, so maybe we should leave him off this team. So
he was, that factors into it. He was very grumpy, Mike Marshall.
You know what I'm going to do?
Said Herb Washington is a better man losing than Mike Marshall is winning. That has something to do with it, attitude in the clubhouse.
It does, and I've given into you on this pitching staff till now. I'm going to give you Juan Marshall as our closer, and you will be totally responsible for the pitching staff. Marshall is our closer.
Marshall's our closer?
Marshall. Juan Marshall.
Yeah,
so
he was.
Messina and Marshall.
Yeah. Marichal won't be thrilled that he's not starting, that Skubal was. You want to know something also what could be done? It could also be, a team like that could be flip-flopped. So Skubal could be a closer and Marichal could be a starter. Push came to shove.
Yeah, you could put them all in each other's
spot. Coming in to throw hard for a couple of innings would be nearly unhittable.
Who's going to manage this mess of a team we have here? Here's our teammates that I have written down. Gene Mauch, Dusty Baker, Al Lopez.
Wait. Dusty won a championship, didn't he, with the Astros?
He did not. Oh, he did. Sorry. Baker comes off the list, right? Sorry.
Yeah.
I had Baker. I think I was looking at something with Baker pre-Astros. Bill Rigney.
With the Angels and Giants?
Twins, I think. Angels.
Yeah, Rigney doesn't cut it for me.
I'm going to tell you what, and this will go against the grain. I like Gene Mauch a lot.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Gene Mauch as well. I mean, even though I wasn't the biggest Tim McCarver fan, I trusted his baseball knowledge, and Gene Mauch was his manager.
Yeah.
And Tim McCarver talked very highly of Gene Mauch, the type of manager he was. And for whatever reason, they didn't win a World Series or get there even. World Series, right, let alone win it. Twice he came close in 86, one pitch away. And in 1964, the guy had a 6-game lead with 10 games to play. And his two ace pitchers, Jim Bunning and Chris Short, he kept pitching them on 2 days rest. A panic move. How do you blow a 6-game lead with 10 games to play?
That's hard to do.
I put that one on Mauch. But Mauch was...
A lot of guys who played for him will rave about Gene Mauch. As you said, Tim McCarver, Rod Carew raved about Gene Mauch, I can tell you. So I like Gene Mauch in that spot. Do we want to
agree with you? I'll go with Gene Mauch.
Do you want to try to put a lineup together?
I don't know how much time we have. I guess we have to.
I think
we're running out.
We're about the end.
I don't know. Any lineup is good, just about. I'm not going to have Fisk hit at the top of the order.
I'm going to tell you,
they're hitting at the bottom of the order.
As we were going here, I threw it together. You won't like a couple of these things, but here I'll just tell you what I got. I got Carew leading off, Mattingly hitting second, Bonds third, Griffey fourth, Williams fifth, Judge sixth, Beltre seventh, Fisk eighth, and Lindor ninth. We can swap.
Yeah, I think no. You have to put Judge up second. You have to get his bat up in extra time.
I would argue
with that. I understand Carew leading off, Judge second, and I would flip-flop it if I had to put Mattingly sixth. Who do you have third?
Bonds.
Bonds is great, especially Bonds at his peak. Come on.
Yeah, without a doubt. Bonds and Williams. How are you getting around that part of that lineup?
I would drop.
I'll I'll flip-flop Mattingly and Judge second and 6.
Yeah, Mattingly, good contact hitter. Guys get on base ahead of him.
That's
You're
fair.
looking at the base running on that team. I mean, Judge is all right on the bases. Carew would be all right. Bonds, especially when he was younger and when he's motivated.
Griffey ran
run
the base.
well. Yeah.
Beltray
Yeah.
ran the base as well. Fisk was
Beltre's hitting. Where's Beltray hitting?
7th.
Yeah, okay. And Lindor 8th and Fisk 9th, right?
I've got Fisk 8 and Lindor 9th.
I flip-flop that. I think Lindor gives you more pop in his bat, more power.
He does a little bit, but I like
more speed on the bases.
I like the speed and the pop at that 9th spot too, because now I got like 2 leadoff guys kind of back to back 9 and 1.
I look at it much differently, and I always looked at it this way. I always thought hitting a guy 4th cleanup was flat out stupid the whole term. And Reggie Jackson was a bit of a fool because he had such a big ego. Oh, I have to hit cleanup. What does cleanup mean? Everyone is out of their mind. What are the chances of the 3 guys getting on base before you and you having the bases loaded and you cleaning up? The smart thing to do is to get your best hitters as many at-bats in the game as possible. So that's why the Yankees are hitting Judge second. Keith, I'm going to tell you, I'm really proud of myself, how smart I've been and matters like this my whole life. I realized this from the time I was a little kid. You want your best hitters hitting as much as possible.
Do you remember?
And now the analytics is showing that. That's why Judge hits second.
You remember when Whitey Herzog was hitting Brett and McRae 1 and 2 in Kansas City?
Exactly. George Brett. Exactly. You want to get him, especially with a DH.
Yeah.
You know, when your pitch is going 9th. But the difference between hitting a guy 1st and 4th, for example, and if he plays full time, that might be an extra 30 at bats during the season. That might mean a game or 2. But whatever.
Well, this was a fun exercise, Jack. I had a lot of fun doing this, and I've actually got a couple other ideas we can do when we have to do this type of show in the future off of this listing. So I think we put together a representative team. Plus, we got some guys that would be on our bench that we didn't take. That will certainly fill in the gaps. So thank you for going through this exercise with me. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again,
A lot of fun.
Put your comments in, and if you disagree with us, which I'm sure you do in some places, so feel free to put those comments in there. And we'll see you back live back on the 10th of February, guys. So have a great, whenever you see this, enjoy your day, your night, enjoy the Super Bowl, enjoy whatever. See you guys later. For Jack Hirsch, I'm Keith Engle. Have a great day.